Hey everybody, thanks for joining me for part 2 of monoprinting with the Gelli Arts printing plate. And in this segment, I decided to take some mustard seed distress paint. And like I said before, I have a lot of distress paints, so that's what I was working primarily with. And I hadn't cleaned off my brayer, so it was interesting to see that the mustard seed and the green paint on the brayer combined to create this gorgeous chartreuse color. And I thought it was so pretty. I was like, well, let's just roll with it. So I wanted to try stamping onto the plate, and this is a lot like kissing. So if you've ever done kissing with your rubber stamps, this is very much the same. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to clean off the rubber stamp in between each impression so that I have a clean stamp, and that will help lift off the paint the best. So I'm just going to randomly stamp and just continue cleaning the stamp in between each one. And depending on how wet or dry your layer of paint is, you may need to give the stamp just an ever so slight twist to get it to remove and lift off the paint. But I don't think I had any problems with it, but that's just kind of a tip there, depending on how well it's working for you. And then I took a Q-tip, and like I said before, don't use anything sharp. Use something soft if you're going to create your own patterns, or something gentle, or something made of rubber, but nothing like a knife or a ballpoint pen or anything sharp that could carve some permanent marks into your Gelli plate and ruin it. And I added an extra color to the polka dots where I had removed the paint just to see what I would get, because I was very curious. And here we're going to do the first pull, and I thought this was super fun. It turned out so cute, and I thought, I could actually frame that, or it would be fun to, use it as background paper, or maybe use it to cover a notebook. And so then I wanted to try getting the second print, or a ghost print, and there was enough paint on there, and I was pleasantly surprised by what I got. And in fact, I loved it so much. And I did try later on doing something to it, and I ended up ruining it because I used too intense a color and a pattern over the top. But I learned then to be much more selective about what I do for the next layer in order to make sure, that I'm going to end up with something that isn't obliterating the original layers. So now I've wanted to try mixing paint to get a softer color of green. The green here is peeled paint, and I'm adding some picket fence distress paint to kind of dilute that color of green. And I actually added way too much. I tried to scrape it off with a piece of cardstock, but it was still too much. And you can see here, it is too thick the layer of paint. It's too wet, and I'm not going to be able to get a good print with that. And I knew it would take a long, long time to let it dry and brayer out. So I just blotted it off, the excess off. And here you can see I've spent a little bit of time brayering it, no more beading issues. And I've got a nice thinner layer of paint in order to do a print. So now we'll take a stencil. I think this stencil is really fun. It kind of reminds me of lily pads. And I'm going to go ahead, and you'll notice I used a lot of green. I love green, so green is probably going to show up in pretty much every monoprint I do, I think, because I just love green, and I love, botanical elements and organic things. So, so anyway, just be prepared, lots of green. And now I'm going to try to get the second print. And I thought the stencil would lift up more of the paint, but it didn't. So then I got a really nice solid from the second pull. So I just thought that was really cool. So there's, always something that you can do with those, and I set those aside, but I wanted to keep going to see what else would happen if I added more paint and I wasn't carefully cleaning the plate off in between. If I just kept going like I see those artists doing. So I'm trying to be artsy and not let it bother me that I didn't clean the plate. So I'm going to take these two colors, and in this instance, I wanted to see if I could put the two colors down, but not necessarily blend them to create a whole new color. I just wanted to leave splotches of the two different colors and have them show up. So we'll see when I do the first pull if I actually got that effect. So now when I peel it back, I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm inspired to try to do a little bit of color blocking, maybe use my smaller brayer to see if I can achieve that. But let's see what we can get with a second pull. And hopefully there's enough paint there on the plate for a ghost print. And this really excited me. I thought this was awesome. I loved the textural effect, that it was the softer colors. It looked very distressed. And you could see some of the residual stencil image there from the previous print that I had done. And it didn't bother me that it was there. I was like, hey, that's really interesting and cool, and I'm just going to go with it. So I set it aside to dry, and then I put on some Barn Red, and again, I have not cleaned anything. I just decided, you know what, let's just keep going and see what happens. Now in the future, I think I will have a stack of magazines, old magazines, or some newsprint that I can brayer the excess paint off the brayer and have a wet rag or some baby wipes so that I can clean it off, especially if I want to switch, colors pretty dramatically and keep them more pure instead of having them pick up some of the previous color. And now I'm going to take some balser bits. These are stencils made by Julie Fanfay Balser, and I love these masks that she's coming out with, and I hope she continues to do more. I think they're fun. And this particular 2 different sets, I love the organic images especially, and I thought they would be fun to see what would happen here in the red. So I want to get it all the way around the edges there, because sometimes I forget to go all the way out to the edges so I get a nice complete print. And I thought this one turned out very dramatic and bold, and even though I didn't clean it off, you can see just a little hint of that broken china there in the background. And I think it added some interest to the finished print. So we'll keep on going. I'm just going to remove those stencils, and then I'm going to take that ghost print I made previously, and here's where I'm going to create the second layer and see what I end up with. So this is where I finally kind of was feeling I was getting the hang of the steps and the order of doing things, and I was going to end up with a really neat multi-layered print. And I loved how this turned out. I think it would be so cool framed. And now I'm ready. I feel confident enough that I can start trying to use maybe better quality papers and possibly print these onto canvas, or maybe there's a way you can Mod Podge these prints that were done on the photocopy paper onto a canvas so you can mount it to the wall. So I'm really excited about the possibilities with this, that I could make art to hang in my house. And so I think you'll have a lot of fun. If you've never tried monoprinting before, this is pretty easy and you have a lot of creative options. Thanks for watching.